Welcome to Human Potential at Work, the show where we explore social impact, inclusion, and empowerment of everyone, including persons with disabilities. Get ready to be inspired, hear success stories, and learn tips and principles for bringing out the best in everyone.
Hi, everyone. This is Debra Ruh, and you are listening or watching Human Potential at Work. Today, I have one of my regular guests. I know I'm not Oprah and he's not Dr. Phil, but sometimes I think about it like that because I have him on so regularly. But I love his voice, and he is my mentor and my coach, and he really guides me as I process my thoughts and my life. So Doug Foresta joins us again today, and I always enjoy having conversations with him. So, Doug, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Deborah. And yes, of course, today we're going to talk about, and I love the Dr. Phil to your Oprah. I really enjoy that analogy. So yes, today we're going to talk about how do we join efforts to improve the world, right? So say a little bit more about that. I mean, I know that, you know, not no one of us can actually do everything. So say a little bit about that joining of efforts.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it a lot because um, I I always think about how can I make a better impact? How can I make the world a little better place? And when I say the world, I'm looking at it from so many different lenses. But I was just thinking about the other day. My husband loves the news, and he was listening to the news, and I was overhearing it. I was watching, and I started worrying about all these things that were happening, the flu, the the norovirus, which both my family and your family got. You have the coronavirus. There's just so many things coming at us, and I think sometimes the media is bringing it to us in such intense ways because if we're afraid, we are easier to control. And I'm not saying the media wants to completely control us because, we're sort of part of the media too. But I do think there is some of that fear factor, be afraid, be afraid. And so I thought, well, how do we make a difference and how do we add value? Do you have to go and create your own company to do that, Doug? Do you have to get your PhD? How do you really add value to things that matter to you deeply as a person, especially at times that are so intense and at times where we just feel like sometimes what we're doing is not enough.
Right. And I think, was that Mother Teresa? Was it Mother Teresa who said, we can't all do like we can't all do big things, but we can do small things with great love, right?
Yes.
And so that's always, I think, unless there are a few of us who have that destiny to go on and be president or be a world leader or be someone that can make this change on this giant scale in that way. But if we only look to those people to make changes, you know we really are missing a lot of what change is, I think, right?
Right. And how we value change and how we value contributions. And I'll give you an example of that. I work with this woman who's amazing. We've actually had her on the program before talking about her prison ministries. And her name is Christina Block. I call her Chris Block. And she gives back to people all day long. Ever since I've known her, this woman is the person that's taking food to families that are in trouble. She is helping, I remember she was helping an elderly couple when the husband could no longer really pick his wife up anymore, and he was afraid she was going to get hurt. And she's always there. She does prison ministry. She collects clothes, and she provides them, and she does food drives, and she does so much for the local community. She's touched so many people's lives. And then we look at our work, Doug. We both have contributed to society and are always trying to give back. And so there's so many ways that we can contribute and that add such great value to the world. But at the same time, sometimes the problem seems so big that it's like, I don't want our planet to be in trouble. I love our planet. I am one of those people that I like to take my shoes off even in the winter and walk on the planet, on our earth, because I just delight in this beautiful planet that we're part of. But so how can I be part of adding value to what's happening with the climate? Can I make any difference at all? I'm one
Right.
individual. So it's sort of those thoughts that I think about, especially right now as I look at, once again, the intensity. My family, your family did the same thing, but my family got so sick with it's the norovirus. You're the one that told me the name of it. And it was funny. I was listening. I asked Alexa to define the norovirus for me. And she said, the nickname of it is called the winter vomiting virus. And I was like, it's a good nickname.
That is a lovely nickname.
It's a good nickname.
The winter vomiting virus,
Yeah.
or
It's like,
WVV for short.
that's right. It really, really is a painful in every sense of the word virus. And my daughter had it. And then she came home from her apartment and I was mothering her, which I was totally enjoying. And then, of course, I got it. And then my husband got it. And the way, he reacted to it, well, let's just say there was a 911 call during this event. It was, if I wasn't gray, I would totally be gray with some of the path that I have to walk. And once again, it's the intensity that we're all walking because your family walked it too. And you said, I'm just going to say what you said to me, that you were moaning in pain so loud you woke yourself up.
Oh yeah, it was not fun. It was definitely not fun. I would not like to do that again. No,
But you
so
lost some
we're
weight. Good
yeah,
for
I
you.
did. Yeah, that's true. That I do not recommend that as a weight loss strategy, just so you know, but it is effective. I just want to say something too about, as we're talking about this idea of changing the world, and I think we've talked about it before, but there's a Jewish concept that I really like called tikkun olam, which means repairing the world. And it comes from the Kabbalah, and it's this idea that when the world was originally formed, it was perfect, and then it was like God blew air to animate it, and it couldn't hold that perfection, couldn't hold, and it shattered. It just shattered into all these pieces. And the idea of tikkun is that we all have to go grab the shards and put them back together so to repair and restore the world to its original wholeness. And the thing that it says is the work is not yours to finish, but neither are you free to abandon it.
Ooh,
And I always love that idea
I
that,
love that too.
we get frustrated because we want to see change happen now. And we want to see it happen in our lifetime. And we want the gratification of knowing that happens, when maybe our job is to pick up the shards, not to abandon it, but not to expect that we're going to see necessarily. We may not see that vessel come back together, at least not in this form.
Oh, that's such a great, great point. I tell you, I love the Judaism. My mom used to say that we were Jewish, and of course, it follows a mother's line. And I could never really, validate that. My mom has passed over now, but
Yeah.
I love the sense of community that the Jewish people have. I really, really admire Judaism in a lot of ways. But it was I was thinking as you were talking, I was listening as you were talking, and I was just thinking about, there are so many ways that we really can add value in the world, and they can be little ways. And um, of course, everybody knows I'm a business owner, and I've had multiple businesses, and it is not for the faint of heart
No.
because the
No.
cash flow
The ride you've been
problems
on,
and
Deborah.
yeah, luckily gray hair, but it's just not for the faint of heart. And it can be, there's a lot of misinformation and misnomers and things like that. But sometimes in life, no matter where we are, sometimes you just need a little hope to get over to the next, point. And there have been times when we were hopeful that we were going to get a project. And in the end, we didn't get it, but the hope sustained you to the point where you actually could go after other things. Or you're in a situation, you're feeling horrible, maybe you're sick or you're depressed or whatever, and somebody smiles at you. Or somebody, the other day I went into this local restaurant called Chicken Fiesta, which I just think it's yummy, and it's always really good, and it's healthy too. So, and as I was leaving, the two men were coming in, and they, I could tell from the clothes they were wearing that they looked like they were part of the fire department. And one of the men was a little bit older, and he's like, "I love your hair, and purple is my favorite color." And
That's great.
I said, "I love purple too." And I left, and it just, I really liked this just little tiny, communications that I had. He was just sending me a little light, and I caught it, and just a smile. I remember I've said on air before, when I was a little kid, my poor mom had borderline personality disorder. And so she was always struggling with anxiety and mental health issues. And I remember as a kid when, starting to smile at adults, to see how many adults I could get to smile back to me. And I was obviously a weird little kid, but I knew even then that there are tiny little ways that we can help each other just get through the day. And
Right.
sometimes it's just getting through the day, especially like when we're sick and stuff like that. But there's, and so what is more important than that? What is more important than the small ways, the medium, the big, the large ways that we have
That's right.
impact? And we're about to do a very exciting marketing campaign with a nonprofit that is doing things that really, really make a difference to the earth, and very, very engaged in climate action, things like that. And the first time I heard about this organization, and we'll announce it later because we're working out the details, but I loved what they were doing. And I immediately thought, how can I help? And it's like, Deborah, you got plenty to do, but I just loved so much what they were doing. And so then when we were discussing ways that we could actually help, I was thinking, if we help with something like this, something that's climate action, well, that's not disability inclusion, Deborah, but we are about impact,
Right.
right?
And
We're
by the way,
about
people
impact.
with disabilities live on this planet. So
Yeah.
there's
Yes.
that.
And people with disabilities are often more vulnerable
That's
to
right.
the
They're
changes
more
on the planet.
adversely, they could be more adversely affected
Yeah.
and impacted by the impact of climate change.
Right. So
Yeah.
when you're talking about the earth and,
Yeah.
inhabitants and people, yeah,
Yeah.
it's sort of all mixed together. This is a very sad story, but we had a flash flood in Richmond, Virginia years ago. I don't know, maybe 8 years ago. And this people got caught in it, and this one woman got caught in it. She was in her car, and the flood was coming and it was rising, and she called 911, and they said, they said what you should never do. You never get out of the car. You never get out of the car.
Yeah.
But it's rising and they can't get to her. And
You
they
got to get out of
said,
the car.
"Get
Yeah.
out." And she said, I use crutches. And let's just say that
Wow.
this woman passed away. And I thought, that's that's that broke my heart, because she was more vulnerable, and it was a powerful flood. So, you know, maybe it would have not worked out either way, but people with
Yeah.
disabilities are more vulnerable to what is happening. And I was watching, which was very sad. I was watching a 60 Minutes episode on the Australian fires. 1 billion animals were killed. 1 billion is the estimates, and the people are
I know.
devastated. And oh my, and it's a clear indication of what is happening with climate change. And what we don't want to do is, I don't want to get on in just who's right, or the scientist right, but whatever. Are we causing all the problems? At a certain point, as opposed to figure out who did, you know, what can we do to help?
Right.
What can we do to
Well, could
help?
we all agree? I mean, could we all agree that the planet could be cleaner, that we could be better stewards of the earth? I mean, I don't care
Hmm.
what side you're on. I
Right.
mean, I can't imagine that we could, um, I can't imagine that you could argue with that. And I just want to say something too about, problems that seem so large, like a problem like climate change, right? And you start to think about it, you go, what the heck can I do about climate change? Well, there are, the problem is that when you start to think, well, you have to be the one to personally solve climate change, and it
Right.
can't be solved that way, right? It wasn't created that way, and it can't be solved in that way. So, you can vote, obviously, is one thing you can
Mhm.
do. You can educate other people around you. You can speak out on what you believe. You can recycle. You can look at your own carbon footprint. You can decide how do I be a better steward of the my immediate surroundings, right? The choices that I make. What do I buy? There's actually 100 things you could do, right?
I
And
agree.
again, the problem is, I think we feel as if this is the atomization. This is this idea of, part of what happens is that we become, with a lot of these social problems, large social problems, we become atomized, meaning we feel like we have to solve it ourselves, right? And we're gonna we're gonna talk about, we're doing another episode about collaboration, but we need other people. We need, we can't do it ourselves. And maybe instead of having this heroic idea that we each individually are going to be heroes, because that's kind of what we see with leaders. They go, elect me and I will solve the problems, right?
Right.
Instead of we.
Right, right. And it does make me think of something that I heard said about President Barack Obama, who I was a fan of. You know, he was president during difficult times. I'm not saying he's perfect, but, there was a lot
But
that
he
I
had
liked.
zero scandals.
Yeah, yeah, and somebody had said during the, I think it was during his first term, and he was up for the second term. Somebody had said, as a matter of fact, I think it was Van Jones. I was in
Oh yeah, sure.
I was in a conference, and he was speaking, and he said, President Obama never said, "Yes, I can." It was, "Yes, we
Yeah,
can." Yes, we
yeah,
can. And I remember thinking it was a subtle, it
right.
was a subtle point that I
Yeah,
just thought was very valuable. And I also think, Doug, things also, sometimes we're looking for ways we can contribute, and we think, well, if, for example, I am a big fan of nature. I love nature. I'm really blessed to live in, the woods, and I love the trees and all of that stuff. And think about what you're passionate about, and follow what's happening with that,
hmm,
and get involved in crowdfunding. The younger people are
right.
very engaged in stuff like that. Get on social media and talk about your
Yeah,
thoughts and your ideas. And yeah, there's people that get on and they just try to break everybody else down, and it's like, oh, nice
yeah,
thought. And I
yeah,
had somebody criticizing a post I made about the expectations we should have of corporations being more engaged in the focusing on more than just profits and shareholder value. Once again, if they're not profitable, they're not going to stay in business. That's not good. But encouraging corporations to be more, we talk about that a lot on the show. But he was saying corporations are evil. And then he actually sent a link that is a YouTube video. There is a documentary that's called The Corporation. And if you really want to be depressed, I
you could watch that. Yeah,
really recommend. As a matter of
yeah.
fact, one of the first comments was, every time I think about being happy, I realize I can watch this and be super depressed. So, and by the way, at the same time, it's good to know this stuff. And there
Hmm,
was great
sure.
content in this, but it really made me sort of overwhelmed,
Yeah,
and so I still say the same thing. Corporations are made up of people, and people need to decide who they are and what they care about and what they're going to contribute in the world, no
yeah,
matter who you work for. And
yeah,
if you're working for a company that doesn't meet the who you really are, if it doesn't really represent who you are, it must be agonizing going to that job day after day, even though sometimes we have to do those jobs. We have to take care of our families, and we have to take care of ourselves. But and and we can be thankful for this employer and blah blah blah. But
yeah,
I think that there are things that we could actually do, and I think we all need to be hypersensitive right now of being just a little bit more kinder to each other, because there feels like there's so much of a force of be afraid, be afraid, be afraid, and us tearing each other down. And
sure.
I just think that's
And
really bad.
we can't accomplish anything in fear.
Right.
That's where fear takes us out of our, our neocortex and back into our amygdala. And if you think about, as human beings, what is our unique contribution? We are not very strong. We're not grizzly bears. We're not, I mean, you look at certain, other creatures, and we're not very strong at all. In fact, we're very fragile creatures, right? Even the strongest person in the world is nothing compared to, a gorilla,
Right.
right? So we're not physically strong. We are smart, right, to a certain degree, but one person can't do very much. When you really think about what how we accomplish things, it's because we create civilizations and we create societies. It's our ability to cooperate with each other and work together towards common goals that actually is our strength. That's what makes us. That's why we are, that's why we are the apex, of everything on this planet, right? If you believe that,
Right.
is because of our ability to cooperate and to work together towards common goals.
Right.
Sometimes those goals have been horrible goals. Sometimes those have been amazing goals, and sometimes they've just been misguided, right? So
Right.
if you want to think about like what can you do, I think like you said, it's the we versus I. I think maybe the question isn't what can I do, it's what can we do and how can
Right.
I have influence? How can I influence other people, the people around me, um, towards what towards the things that I care about.
Right. I agree. And I think once again, fear can be, it can just devastate us and it can stop us in our tracks. And
Oh yes.
and you take fear and you add all the intensity into it. And it's I think, who do you want to be in the world? And
Right.
I think being a little less critical and things like that. But I do think there are ways that we can contribute, and people have the right to criticize you, and people have the right to
That's right.
do whatever they want to do. But I just want to keep contributing and trying to help the my fellow man, my the creatures in the world. Go ahead, you want to make
No,
a
I was gonna
comment?
say, well, you are a great example of that, Deborah. If anybody's looking for, an example of how can I contribute, I mean, you were a mom of a daughter with disability, you know, you weren't a disability thought leader, who had a following of, tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of, you weren't that person. You became that person.
Right. Right. Step by step,
Yeah.
and people helped me along the way, and that's
Right.
why I help people along the way too. And
Yeah.
it is fascinating. But I think in once again, these times of intensity and disruptions and global changes and national and local changes, we need to come together more, and we need to be better stewards of everything. We need to be better stewards of the planet, better stewards at helping the other inhabitants on the world, which deserve to be here as much as we do. They're not just all there for our food and our gaming pleasures. I mean, they
Right.
actually matter to the world.
That's right.
um, the trees and the fauna and
Right.
there's so much beauty in our world. And I don't know that we're here to solve all the problems. I don't even think it's possible to solve all the problems, but
Right.
I think that we're stronger together, and we've got to look, we got to find our tribes, we've got to find our
Right.
communities, and we have to keep moving forward and making sure that we're helping others along their way, even in small ways. You just never know what a little small kindness might do for somebody's day. You just never know. And I think at a time when I don't see the intensity I don't think it's going to calm down anytime soon. I think that this is our new normal, right? That's what because we've been doing this for years,
Yeah.
this intensity.
Right.
So I think that be kind, be a little bit more compassionate, be a little, if you definitely need to make this really nasty comment, maybe just wait 5 minutes before you make the
And
comment.
that's one way you could be the change for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I do think it's very important for us all to figure out how we contribute, to try to support each other in the small, the micro, all the way to the big one. And and join the causes that you care about. There's so many ways that you can contribute. There's so many ways you can contribute, and try not to let the fear of who am I to contribute get in the way, because if you want to contribute, there's a way that you can contribute. And just find the way, and don't give up, because we just can't, Doug. It's just too important that we all join together, move together, and try to make the world work better for everyone, including this amazing, precious planet that we're on.
Amen.
Hmm.
Amen, Deborah.
Well, thank you, everyone. And Doug, thank you again for being on the episode. It's, sort of a short, sweet one, but I think it is at a time when all this intensity is happening. There's so many people sick. We're in a, election cycle in the United States. There's just so much intensity in the world right now. I think reminding each of us that let's try to contribute. Let's figure out how to contribute. Let's make a difference. Let's be kinder. Let's give people a break, and let's all work together to make the world work better for all inhabitants. I think that's a very important um, way to move forward, don't you, Doug?
I do. I do. I completely agree, Deborah. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. Thank you, Doug. Thanks, everyone.